You found yourself on another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313, and on today's episode, an ugly loss by the Sacramento Kings has me questioning. Do the Sacramento Kings have an identity crisis, or have they lost their identity altogether? I'm going to answer that question and break down this loss on today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. Let's go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in the place to be, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Pistons from the D. This is Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313, your Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, and Sacramento Kings post-game reaction podcast. And I gotta be honest with y'all, I don't feel good. I don't feel good mentally or emotionally to record this show and record this episode for each and every one of you because, yeah, you guessed it. This is one of these episodes where I gotta go off. I gotta go off on a specific team that played like garbage. But before I get into the specifics of this specific rant, I am your host, Scarlett Weisberg. Thank you so much for joining me on this great program, despite how I mentally and emotionally feel going into this episode. But, as a friendly reminder, you can find Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313 on Amazon Music, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on those platforms if you can, please. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode, which will be tomorrow, recapping the Detroit Pistons and Phoenix Suns. The Detroit Pistons will be rocking their Detroit Bad Boys City Edition jerseys, where I might do a bonus episode of this podcast coming up later this week, telling you about the City Edition jerseys for Sacramento, Detroit, and Cleveland, and tell y'all which one is my favorite jersey. That's coming up maybe sometime this week. Maybe on Tuesday. I will do a bonus episode on Tuesday about it. I don't know. Also, stay tuned for that. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313 a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. I never thought in a million years where I would go off on the Sacramento Kings. The same Sacramento Kings that were the 3 seed in the Pacific Division last year. The same Sacramento Kings that are the reigning, defending, undisputed Pacific Division champions for now. Because there's a team called Golden State that is 5-1 and playing way better than the Sacramento Kings. And the same Sacramento Kings team that went to Houston in a ugly game and got outworked, outplayed, and outcoached by Ime Udoka and the Sacramento Kings or the Houston Rockets. I'm sorry for being mad. I'm sorry for venting. I'm sorry for ranting, but I got to go off. As the Sacramento Kings got outplayed, outcoached, and outworked by Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets by a final score of 107-89. Before I even get into why I am mad about the Sacramento Kings, I need to give the kudos and the credit to Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets. All right? This looks like a team that played a lot better than last year. Because last year, this Houston Rockets team was the most selfish team in the league. I hate to be critical against my opponents, but I gotta call it what it is. While the Sacramento Kings were the most selfless team in the NBA last year, the Houston Rockets were the most selfish team in the NBA. All right. Now why do I say selfish in the context of Houston? Well, let me break it down for you. Last year, this Houston Rockets team was all about themselves more than the team. They were about individual stats more than the team stats. And Ime Udoka deserves a lot of credit here because when he came to the Houston Rockets during the offseason, I was like, oh, snap. The Houston Rockets might have had a better culture. The Rockets might have set a new standard for everybody in the NBA on how new culture is built. Now, don't forget, when Mike Brown came to the Sacramento Kings years ago, he changed the culture, he changed the atmosphere, he changed the standard of what Sacramento Kings basketball is supposed to be. But what I'm impressed with about the Sacramento King or the Houston Rockets performance was this. During free agency, they got very, very key players. They got Fred VanVleet, a guard that used to play for Toronto that will generate you a bunch of points. Give it like 20 to 25 points per game average a night. All right? Then they got Dylan Brooks. Now, I don't know how to feel about Dylan Brooks. Understandably, I think he is an immature bum, and he has a lot of problems off the court that he's got to deal with. But I gotta say that Dylan Brooks, and I never thought I would say this about a guy that I think is an on-the-court villain that has a lot of immaturity problems that he's got to work on. I think tonight, Dylan Brooks has earned a little bit of my respect. Not completely, but for a little bit of hope, Dylan Brooks has earned my respect. He went off in that fourth quarter, and that was one of the reasons why Houston won this game. Now, I have to say this. It was the most ugly game that I've ever seen in basketball this season. Was it a pretty game? Hell to the no. If you told me in the third quarter that the scoreline was 15-12 in favor of Sacramento, I would have called you the craziest person alive. Because for the last 7 minutes in that third quarter, both teams couldn't buy a bucket to save their lives. But credit to Ime Udoka, credit to Houston. They were able to get it together and go off in a really big run that ended the Sacramento Kings' chances of winning. But let's be honest here. The game was over by the first quarter because the Houston Rockets outscored the Sacramento Kings, which was supposed to be the number one offense in the NBA last year, which was supposed to be a more electric offense than ever before, 33-19 at the end of the first quarter. You mean to tell me that you got outscored 33-19 and you can win by that? I'm sorry, Sacramento, but you need to get your facts straight. You are not going to win basketball games by performing like garbage. I got to keep it PG because there's family here. But I'm going to say this. The Sacramento Kings did not respect the Houston Rockets. Not at all. Not at all. I think we overlooked them. I think we assumed that the Houston Rockets were the same trash team from last year. We were going to win. Now, to be honest, I overlooked Houston. I'll be the first to admit it. If none of the Sacramento Kings players would admit it, I'll admit it for them. We overlooked the Houston Rockets. That's simple. We overlooked them. We looked lifeless on offense, and defensively, for the most part, we hung in there. But I saw two critical factors that the Sacramento Kings did not read the scouting report on. Firstly, the Houston Rockets get all the momentum from shooting the three. Unlike the Chicago Bulls, who can't shoot threes worth a spit, the Houston Rockets are a team that can shoot the three ball. And when they get the three ball knocked down, they're one of the most dangerous teams in the Western Conference. I think, to be honest, that the Houston Rockets are going to be one of the contenders in the Western Conference. I'm not going to say for a playoff spot. Houston's got a lot to prove in order to get back into the playoff spot. But they look like a play-in team right now. They look like a play-in team because I believe that Ime Udoka could change the culture in Houston the same way that I believe that Monty Williams can change the culture of the Detroit Pistons. But that's beside the point. The point is that if you are the Sacramento Kings, you are supposed to beat this team. You are supposed to take care of business on the road against a Houston Rocket team that is one of the most selfish teams in the NBA going back to last year. But did you do that? No, you did not do that. You did not. You overlooked them, you disrespected them, you assumed that it was a win, and you got outworked. Now, I will say this. The bench unit for the Sacramento Kings, you guys deserve the credit. And I'm talking about only 3 people. JaVale McGee, Chris Duarte, or Chris Jones, Chris Jones, JaVale McGee, and Duarte. Those 3 people, or those 3 guys, were the only players in a Sacramento uniform that showed up, balled out, and at least gave Sacramento a chance to win this game. If it wasn't for the bench unit, we would have been dead, gone, and buried. And by the way, I hope every single player in the Sacramento Kings, more specifically the Kings starters, watched the film and watched how the bench played. Because the Sacramento starting lineup, I'm sorry, y'all ain't the best starting lineup in the NBA right now. I get that De'Aaron Fox was out for a second straight game, or a third straight game, I should say, it was a second straight game, due to an ankle injury, but it's no excuse. Davion Mitchell, I'm sorry. You are good on defense, but you are not a leader. Domantas Sabonis, you are careless with the basketball. Work on your ball handling or get out of Sacramento. Keegan Murray, I think you're in a sophomore slump because you can't shoot worth a spit. And do not get me started on Kevin Huerter, you inconsistent, soft as hell player. Kevin Huerter, I understand that you are better on the defensive side of the ball. I get that, but my God, either work on your offense or get out of this team. To be honest with you, I would rather have Chris Duarte in the starting lineup than Kevin Huerter. I would rather have Chris Jones in the starting lineup than Kevin Huerter, because right now, this Sacramento offense is not it. It's not it. Defensively, we're improved, but it's the offense that I believe that Sacramento has lost their identity. Malik Monk, look, you have done really well. And I got to give credit to Malik Monk. Malik Monk, Chris Duarte, JaVale McGee, and Chris Jones were the only 4 guys, honestly, that gave Sacramento a chance to win. The starting 5 as a whole, y'all look lifeless, y'all look pathetic, and y'all look like you never played basketball a day in your life. I get that De'Aaron Fox was out, but no excuse. You got to play with who's on the floor. And all credit to the Houston Rockets. All credit to them. They outworked you. They outcoached you. And to be honest with you, Houston deserved this win wire to wire. A wire-to-wire win for the Houston Rockets. If it wasn't for the bench unit, if it wasn't for JaVale McGee, if it wasn't for Chris Jones, if it wasn't for Chris Duarte, and if it wasn't for Malik Monk, we would have been dead, gone, and buried. So every single Sacramento Kings starters need to thank the bench for at least giving the Sacramento Kings a chance to win last night. Because what I saw from the starting lineup was absolutely pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. It was lifeless. It was feeble. It was unexcusable. It's not Sacramento Kings basketball, and I am tired of it. I am tired of it. Ime Udoka said, and I quote, "We weren't scoring well, obviously. Both teams were not scoring well, honestly. And then we just look for a spark somewhere, and then Dylan just made up the hustle plays and effort plays." Dylan Brooks, like I said, for one night, He's earned my respect. He scored 12 of his 26 points in the fourth quarter to lead the Houston Rockets to this win. Why? Because unlike the starting lineup of the Sacramento Kings, Dillon Brooks and the Houston Rockets made more effort plays than them. They did a really good job of getting the ball to the paint. And by the way, the Houston Rockets dominated the Sacramento Kings in points to the paint and dominated the Sacramento Kings in the three ball. So defensively, the Sacramento Kings had more defensive breakdowns more than offensive points. And Mike Brown said about this loss, I thought our resolve was not good, especially in the fourth quarter. And that's something that cannot be habitual, or that's what losing teams do, and that's not what we are. Well, Mike Brown, I hate to break it to you. You are a losing team right now. I get it's game 5, but this is pathetic. This is embarrassing. This is lifeless. This is not what Sacramento Kings basketball is about. Sacramento Kings basketball is about accountability, grit, and electric offense. Right now, the defense is doing better than the offense, and I do not see any accountability. I do not see accountability on this roster. If there's one leader out of the bench unit that I'm seeing right now, Malik Monk is a better leader than Davion Mitchell. Put Malik Monk in the starting lineup if De'Aaron Fox doesn't play on Monday. And by the way, De'Aaron, I hope you heal your ankle fast, and I hope that you are in the starting lineup come Monday, because if we have to trust Davion Mitchell to be in the starting lineup again on Monday against the same Houston team that kicked our ass, the same Houston team that dominated in the three-point ball and in the three-point area, we're dead. We're dead. We're going to be 2-4 going back to the Golden One Center, and then I might be thinking, well, maybe the Sacramento Kings aren't as good as we think we are. Maybe we didn't even deserve the Pacific Division title. Guess what? You just proved that the Golden State Warriors are a better basketball team than you. It's a harsh reality to live in, but that is the cold-blooded truth. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. The Golden State Warriors are 5-1 and clearly first place in the Pacific Division. And then you got the Clippers and Lakers that are right there with them, and Phoenix right now is off to a slow start. You are near the bottom of the division with the LA Lakers. This is not what we expected of the Sacramento Kings to start the season. We should have been 4-2 right now. You could probably argue that we should have been 5-1 with Golden State and at least tie with the Golden State Warriors for first place in the Pacific Division. But no, you overlooked Houston, you disrespected the game, you disrespected your opponent. The starting lineup for the Sacramento Kings looked like a pile of hot garbage, and Houston, to their credit, earned this win. Earned this team win because they made more effort plays and they understood the game more than you. The entire Houston Rockets team outplayed the Sacramento Kings starting lineup. The bench unit was the only thing that was a positive for Sacramento. The stats for this game, 46% shooting for the field for Houston compared to 38% for Sacramento. 13 threes for the Houston Rockets and 11 threes made for Sacramento, even though Sacramento attempted 41 threes this game and only shot 27% from three-point range, which is another thing that is absolutely pathetic. Pathetic. Like, why are we constantly shooting the three ball? I understand that we're trying to generate offense. I understand that. But why don't you play the inside-outside game instead of being one and done and shooting threes at a consistent pace? I mean, goddamn, if you want to learn what an electric offense is, just look at the Indiana Pacers. Just look at the Pacers and watch how Rick Carlisle has operated the Indiana Pacers offense, which, by the way, is the number one offense in the NBA to this point. They are the number one scoring offense in the NBA, and they hold the number one offensive rating in the NBA. Something that the Sacramento Kings had last year. Something that the Sacramento Kings have not gained back right now. Whew. The rebounds, 53-43 in favor of the Houston Rockets. But the biggest stats for me was the points in the paint. 54-42 in favor of the Houston Rockets. Houston, at one point, according to the broadcasters for the Sacramento Kings, was just getting whatever they wanted. They were just getting whatever they wanted, and Sacramento couldn't stop them. As far as whoever stood out to this game, I'm not even going to mention the starting lineup because they don't even deserve to be mentioned right now. I get that Harrison Barnes was the only starter that did well for the most part, but I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn about the starting lineup if they performed with no heart, no fight, and absolutely no passion. And I did not see any passion for the Sacramento Kings starting lineup. What I did see passion, though, is from the bench unit. Thank you, Malik Monk, who finished with 18 points and a rebound, and he was 3 for 7 from three-point range and 6 for 13 for the field. Thank you, Chris Duarte, who finished with 10 points. He also had 2 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. Thank you to JaVale McGee, who came out of the bench and played like he understood the game. 12 points, 6 rebounds tonight. Thank you to Chris Jones, who actually looked amazing. 5 points with 3 rebounds. But the only thing that I'm going to say about is this. Thank you to the Sacramento Kings bench unit for giving Sacramento a chance to win, because y'all outplayed the starting lineup tonight. And that's not even a hyperbole. It is a straight up fact. As far as the Houston Rockets, Jabari Smith Jr., really good game for him. 21 points, 11 rebounds, and a block. Dylan Brooks, he went absolutely crazy in that fourth quarter. He finished with 26 points, 2 for 4 from three-point range, with 9 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. I don't like him with his off-the-court issues, but I have to respect him for the way that he played for the most part tonight. Fred VanVleet did really well with 21 points. He had 12 assists and 6 rebounds. Şengün was a better big man than Domantas Sabonis, and that's not even close. 15 points with 9 rebounds and 6 assists. Off the bench, Tate did a really good job knocking down threes. He was 3 for 3 from three-point range, and most of those threes were wide open. Why? Because the Sacramento Kings were playing a zone defense, and when the Houston Rockets generated the Sacramento Kings to the paint, and the Sacramento Kings were forced to help from the paint, that leaves a wide open three-point shooter like Tate in the corner. Like that cannot happen. That cannot happen. Defensive breakdowns cannot happen, especially against a team that is inferior like the Houston Rockets, and a team that you are supposed to win to the Houston Rockets. If you play like this on Monday in Houston, you're not going to do well against the Portland Trail Blazers, who, by the way, have been playing better basketball to start the year, because Shaedon Sharpe is doing something special. Chauncey Billups is looking like he's got a good coach. And even though that Portland doesn't have Scoot Henderson, they got a guy in Shaedon Sharpe who is an absolute stud right now. So what I want to see come Monday for the Sacramento Kings is I need to see the Sacramento Kings play with heart. I need to see Sacramento play with passion. And simply put, kick Houston's ass in all 3 phases of the game. Offense, defense, three-point shooting, foul line shooting, rebounds, execution. Do better in the paint, and do not give the Houston Rockets open looks from three-point range, because God forbid, if I have to see another Houston Rocket performance where we looked lifeless as hell, and I'm talking to you, starting lineup, I'm talking to you. If you don't show me that you redeemed yourself, if you don't show me that you can play with heart, if you don't show me the electric Sacramento Kings offense that dominated the NBA last year, there's going to be problems. And I never thought I would say it about a Sacramento Kings team, which, by the way, Mike Brown is a really good coach, and I really believe and I really trust in him to get things back together, to get the ship right back on track. But if the Sacramento Kings starting lineup gets outplayed again by the same Houston team. You're not going to like what I'm going to say about the next time the Sacramento Kings have a really bad loss like this. Get it together, Sacramento. You are way better than what you just showed. I know it, and every single person that listens to this podcast and every single Sacramento Kings fan that listens to this podcast knows it. Get your shit together, Sacramento, because this is disgusting. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313. Good thing I got this out of the way before I watch NFL football for the rest of the day. But in any event, you can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, and wherever else you want to listen to the show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. If you can, please turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings in a 313 a 5-star review. I'm Skylar Weisberg. Thank you for tuning into this episode/venting session, and I'm going to see you right back here for another episode of Let 'Em Know Kings in the 313.